Roofers, listen up. Contracts, cash flow, chaos, and control. This is the Roofers Growth and Wealth Show. Real talk, real numbers, real roofers getting rich. You're on the Roofers Growth and Wealth Show. Stacking skills, stacking deals, stacking dough. From shingles to scale, watch your empire grow. Welcome to the Roofers Growth and Wealth Show. Let's go.
Welcome to the Roofers Growth and Wealth Show. I'm your host, Ken Rewerts, with co-host Scott Graves. And today we're going to be taking a look at and having our first episode, actually in a series of business development. And we're grateful to be joined by the amazing Chuck Blakeman. How are you, Chuck?
I'm doing well, sir. How are you? Good to see you both.
Good to see you.
So I know you and Scott know each other. How do you know each other?
Yeah. So Chuck started an amazing company called the Crankset Group, which is kind of the parent entity of an executive leadership training group that I'm a part of called 3 to 5 Club. And I have been, so the idea behind 3 to 5 Club, just very, very brief explanation. It's a training group about, where do you want your company to be in 3 to 5 years? And we're going to show you how to do that. And so for me, having not come from a business background, I've explained in one of our previous episodes that I used to be a band teacher, and so great organization, but don't know anything about running a business. And so it's been a fantastic experience for me as we've been working on, building our business, to give some insights into, okay, there is actually a path that you can take towards building a mature business, which we'll touch on a little bit more later. But so I've been involved in the 3 to 5 Club for almost 4 years now. And it's been awesome. It's been fantastic. The principles and the concepts are just incredibly helpful. And even for those who have business degrees, this is a different way of looking at it, a much more pragmatic, way to look at building a small business, into what we call a mature business. So
Awesome.
It's been awesome. Mm-hmm. It's been great.
Much better to have you say all that than have me say. And I will say that I will make one revision to what you're saying, that if you have a business degree, you might benefit even more from 3 to 5 Club, because and I'm going to be teaching this fall at New Mexico State University in the business school, so I'm part of the problem. But too often we get stuff that's 10 years old, and more often than not, you're getting taught how to be a really good employee in a giant corporation.
That's a good point. Yeah.
If you don't own a business school is not necessarily the place to find that usually. So
It's true.
yeah, 3 to 5 Club is to figure out, how do I run this, and how do I keep it from running me, and how do I not be a hostage to this thing? And I know, and probably 75% of business is generic. It's all about the business side. The rest of it is the craft. Being a surgeon, being a violin maker, being a roofer, that's 25% of business. And that's one of the reasons some people we all know who aren't really good at their craft have a line out their door because they're really good at the business side. So.
Yeah, and it's been there are in our 3 to 5 Club group, we have a variety of different business owners in there. Everybody from real estate to real estate development to a financial advisor, CPA, attorneys. Trying to think of who else. Anyway, there's a wide variety of different, vastly different businesses from blue collar to white collar, and yet the principles apply, to every single one of us. So it's been.
And that's the part of the value of a mastermind group like that, is you really want to be in one that's highly diverse. You don't want to be in one where it's all roofers, because they already all know the same answers and the same problems, and they can't. And we can get an answer from somebody who's in a completely different industry that nobody in roofing ever would have thought of.
Right. Yeah.
Actually apply, but there's no group thing. So I can see how this is going to go, Scott. We just walked all over Ken's introduction.
That's true. We did.
It's fantastic. It's interesting to bring that up. I just joined a mastermind group that it's majority roofers, and I had to ask up front, "Hey, I'm not a roofer. I'm a finance guy. Is it all right if I be a part of this?" And they said, "Yeah, join it. That should help." So
you'll be one of the best contributors.
Yeah, seriously.
what happened there? Yeah. Well, for those that don't know Chuck, I mean, Scott and Chuck, you guys know each other really well. But for those that don't know him, let me go ahead and just introduce all of our roofing listeners to Chuck. So he is a serial entrepreneur, international speaker, best-selling author, and founder of the Crankset Group, like Scott mentioned. Over the course of his career, Chuck has built 13 businesses across 10 industries on 4 continents. Holy moly, he's going to be the first guy to open a business on Mars as soon as we get there, I believe. And he has dedicated his life to helping business owners create companies that generate both time and money. And he's the author of the #1 rated business book, Making Money is Killing Your Business. Is there anything else that you want to tell us about you, Chuck?
Well, that's the fun side. That's the kind of stuff you put on an obituary.
Really tombstone.
Boy, wasn't he great.
Yeah.
The other stuff is most of what I learned by doing it wrong. And I was growing up, I was ADHD, left-handed, right-brained, and dyslexic. And they thought I should be a tinsmith because I was graduating at the very bottom of my class of 500 people. And I barely made it out of high school, and it took me 19 years to get a bachelor's degree. And I only finally finished that to make my mom happy because I had siblings who had masters and all that other stuff. So that's the real story. Is it? I was probably considered by myself and perhaps by a lot of others as an abject failure. I joined the Army because I didn't think I could do anything else. I was pretty sure I could never get a job, and they had to take me because I had a high school diploma. So I joined. And while in the Army, I mistakenly started some kind of little business, and off we go. And 40 years later, 45 years later, here we are. So that's the other half of the story.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it's funny. I've heard it said. I had a guy, a good friend of mine, that is a business owner. He owns a business over in Utah. He was the same kind of way. Just really was not a great student. And he's like, yeah, all of us who got D's, C's, and D's in school, end up hiring all the guys who get A's and B's. So if you're really great at school, you too could work for a C or D student at some point in your life. And I was like, oh yeah, that's pretty true, actually.
I love that.
Well, I was a CD and a lot of F's as well, so I hired a lot of people. A's and B's. It's true.
I love it. It reminds me of you talk a lot of these roofers, and most of them have rough backgrounds. I mean, most of them have addictions and jail time and this, that, and the other. And you go, holy cow, that's amazing how they. Well, I often think it just comes down to there's not a lot of other options. You got to start a business and grow something yourself if you want to have success.
And join the Army or be a roofer. It's not really all that different.
You have 2 options in life. Roofing.
Yeah, there you go.
If I'd have thought of roofing, I'd have done that instead. But.
All right. Well, and the thing about people who have been through rough times like that, they develop just a dogged determination. It's like I'm gonna succeed at this no matter what I do. I'm just gonna fight, and push until it works. Yeah. So
yeah.
Well, and that's the right way to look at childhoods or circumstances like that. Is what did it do to shape me in a way that makes me unique and gives me a positive contribution to the world around me? And that's one for me was I am a bulldog because I raised myself in a family of 6 rugged individualists, including 2 rugged individualist parents who both worked full time in the 50s and 60s, which is extremely rare.
Yeah,
I was the last 4 kids, and so I raised myself. If I wanted a birthday cake, I made it myself, and I didn't even think that was a bad thing. I just did it. I bought my own bicycle for $5 and figured out how to ride it, and Christmas decorations. I put them out if I wanted them, and so so all of that. That's there's a lot that came out of that that's traumatic in terms of the bad thing was I became a rugged individualist. The good thing was I learned how to be a rugged individualist.
Yeah. I think your next book, Chuck, should be called Make Your Own Birthday Cake.
That's right. That's a good title.
There you go.
You're gonna have to trademark Ken real quick before he uses it.
You are welcome. You are welcome. So today we wanted to talk with you about, building the business is the idea here. These are all business owners that we talk to, roofing business owners. But going back to the fundamentals for a second. In fact, Scott, if you want to bring up that chart again,
Yeah.
Go ahead and share that chart for those
for our
that are
YouTube
watching.
friends. Yeah.
Yeah. And for those that aren't, we'll describe it really well. But going back to the beginning of a business, and you talk about this often, but in order to start building a business to a maturity, you got to start somewhere. And you often mention that they need to have a foundational set of values, principles, that kind of stuff.
Right.
So can you talk to us about why that's so important, Chuck?
Sure. And this will be as hard for roofers as it was for me, because I'm going to talk about, I'm just warning you, I'm going to talk to a bunch of stuff right now that might sound like woo-woo crap. In the Chinese, I just found out like 4 or 5 years ago, I use this all the time for decades. Woo-woo, I've heard from somebody, means mystery in Chinese.
Okay.
Mystery crap.
Okay.
And it's
So it's a
woo-woo crap.
technical term is what you're saying.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
But we pragmatists, and I think I put myself in that because I had a landscaping business and I had a construction business. I had a lot of blue collar type businesses, as well as some very fancy stuff I did with Google and Microsoft and Apple and all those guys. But for me, this was woo-woo crap. Don't talk to me about
hold on.
principles.
Real quick, Chuck, let me take just a second and
Sure.
just describe this chart. Okay, so this chart that we're looking at is called the 7 drivers of every business. Okay, and it's 7 circles with the one one behind, each behind the one in front of it. And the first one is principles or values. Okay, that's the very first one right in front. And then behind that, you have a circle that says purpose. Then you have people. Then you have product or service. Then process. Then promotion or marketing, right? And then there's price. And so the last driver, the one that comes last, is price. And sometimes we think that oh man, I got to figure out how much to charge. Well, no, yeah, that's important at some point, but you can't, don't put the cart before the horse. You need to start with a defining set of principles or values.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. With a defining set of principles or values.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Chuck.
And no, appreciate that. And these are in descending order of size. Principles is huge. Purpose is next big. People is next. And then product, process, promotion, and price. Those continue to get smaller until price is a very small circle on the bottom of the graph. And then again, is to emphasize which ones are more important than the others. And we look at these things as small business owners, and our response is, I don't have time for this nonsense. I'm too busy building a chair.
Or putting a roof on.
I'm trying to figure out how much do I charge for my chair or my roof, and then how do I promote it? That's the marketing piece. That's the second piece. And then what's my process for putting a roof on? I got to make sure I have that. And then what products do I use, or do I sell commercial roofing or residential? Do I sell flat roofing or elastomeric? What do I do? What's my product? And we focus all our energies on price, promotion, process, and product. And the people who are really successful are the ones who say, there's 3 things that are much more important than those 3. And if we get those 3 right, the other 4 will almost take care of themselves. So I have one roofer, I've worked with multiple roofers, and one roofer I talked to we just worked on the people first, and then the purpose and the principles. And the long short story is, for 10 years, their objective had been to make 17% profit on every job. They had never made more than 8% profit, and they normally made 4 to 6. I asked them to focus on the people, the purpose, and the principles, and we gave them some very practical ways to do that, because otherwise this is woo-woo crap. And I gave them, for 4 to 6 weeks, we worked on this together, and the next job was a roofing job on a surgery center. It was a $2 million flat roof job, and they made 34% profit.
Wow.
On that first job after figuring out people, purpose, and principles. So, You might think this stuff is woo-woo crap. The people who focus on this are going to make a buttload more money than you are. So, so it's not woo-woo crap. This is really important for all of us. And I get that we don't see it because it's so intangible up front. I don't see how it relates to price, promotion, process, and product. I'm too busy with those things to think, what are my principles? Oh, what are my values? What's my purpose, my mission, my mission? That stuff you stick in the front of a giant corporation annual report to make yourself look good. It doesn't mean anything. But I'm here to tell you, I can show you companies where the guy pushing the broom in the warehouse, where there's 37 people in the business, and the guy pushing the broom in the warehouse, you walk back to him and you ask him, what are our values? Which is the purpose piece or the principle piece. And he can tell you. And then I can tell what's our mission. And he can tell you what the mission is. And then he can tell you how he applied it that day. And if he can't, this stuff is woo-woo crap. But it should be the fiber and the practice of every person in your business on an ongoing basis. So principles. Again, and here's the other piece of this. To convince our listeners, and maybe this stuff is important, you are already working with these top three things. The problem is you're doing it randomly.
Not intentionally.
Not intentionally. The number one strategy of every business owner is the random hope strategy of business. I'm going to work my ass off. Hope it happens. That's like this for my first 5 businesses. I'm going to work my ass off, and something good's got to happen if I work really hard.
Wait, that's how I started my business. Are you telling me I did it wrong?
No, yeah. I'm telling you the way you came by that honestly. Yes, you did it wrong. So did I. And that's okay. And let's just keep going and fix it. And so what if we did this stuff on purpose? You hire people and you have people, but you're doing it randomly. You actually have purpose. You have values, vision, and mission. You have principles and purpose. You've got values, but you're not doing them on purpose. You couldn't even articulate them. But I guarantee you, every decision you make in your business is being driven by values that are unarticulated in your business. And then you also violate them on a regular basis because there's some situational ethic that comes along where I can make money and it violates my unwritten values, but I don't even know what they are. So we're doing this stuff randomly, principles, purpose, and people. What if we did them on purpose? You might go from 6% profit to 34% if you do this stuff on purpose. So like it or not, these things drive every business from one person to 10,000 people is driven by principles, purpose, and people. What if we figured them out, wrote them down, and then instituted a very practical way to bring them up every week for 5 minutes with people to show them how this stuff is actually meaningful to getting our product, our process, and our promotion and our price figured out. So in closing here, if you get your principles, which is your values, and ours is, I can give you ours, our principle, our values, spell the Dutch word, it's ACCCT. 3 C's, ACCCT. Echt.
Does that also mean mystery?
Yeah, I think that means mystery in Dutch.
But if you have more than 3 values, you better spell something because you're going to forget it. So, our values are abundance, community, clarity, conation, which is speed of execution, and trust. Those are our 5 values.
Uh-huh.
Within a month of writing those down 15 or 20 years ago, I had half my team come to me and say, we got to fire so-and-so because she doesn't actually subscribe to all 5 of our values. She's only 4 out of 5. And she was one of the people who went away and helped figure them out. That's how practical this stuff is. But if you figure out your values and then your mission, your vision and your mission, if you figure those things out and you put those in your hiring ads, then you are hiring the right people. And when you hire the right people, they will take care of product, process, promotion, and price.
Okay, so you just brought up what my next question was going to be. Why is it important for the people that work for you to know what your values are? Why is that such a big deal, and that they live those values?
Yeah, because it has to be their values. It's this fancy business word. I hate buzzwords, but I'll use it here and then we'll figure out another way to say it. Alignment. We need alignment.
I like that word. Alignment wealth. Yeah.
Yeah, we all need to be aligned, but we all need to believe the same things. And so this is business culture, Scott. if I hire someone whose cultural view of the world, business wise, we'll get to that in a second, is different than mine, we are incompatible in the same way that two people shouldn't get married if they don't believe the same things about life.
Hmm.
Now, what does that mean? It's not a cop out for not hiring people because they're in the wrong size, shape, color, or religion. That's not the culture I'm talking about. I'm talking about business culture. What do you believe about business in general? Is business a necessary evil in your life, or is it an integrated part of who you are? You want to run to work because it's part of who you are. I don't want to hire the first person because that person is misaligned with me. I don't Work is not a necessary evil for me. I want it to be a seamless part of the rest of my life. What is money? Is money the reason you do things? Is that the result that you want? Or is money a scorecard of the transformative work you're doing in the world around you? I'm not hiring the first person because that person just wants money. And when we're not thinking enough, money is not an empowering vision. But being transformative in the world around you, how do I build a roof that will never, for the next 20 years won't leak, and people who live there are comfortable? I want people who actually are concerned about that. That's a cultural issue. What do you believe about people? Are people stupid and lazy, or are they generally smart and motivated? If you believe people are stupid and lazy, I don't want to hire you because you're one of them. You think you're stupid. I want people who think people are smart and motivated, and I'm one of them. That's a cultural thing. So these are business culture. And so I can say, I'm not hiring this person because they don't have the same principles, purpose, and that I have. So I'm not hiring them because I need people who are aligned with those kinds of things. There's basically 6 of those. I made 3 of them.
I like that.
Yeah, those go in the ads. And that's one of the major things we test. Before we even get a resume, guys, we test for these 6 things. I want to see that they're aligned with our culture on things like money and work and people and uh, business and all that good stuff.
This is great stuff, Chuck. I've been taking notes. I love this. What would you say? What would you say to a business owner, a roofer, who's been in the business 5, 7, 10 years, and he's hearing this going, "Oh shoot, I do have that plaque on my wall that says I just worked my ass off and hope for the best." Um, what do you say to them? How do they get started on this? How do they take their group, their team, and all of a sudden, institute this culture of values first, principles
Yeah.
first, purpose first?
Yeah. So the first thing to do is for the business owners and the leaders in the business to all go away separately, maybe with their spouses if they have them or relationships, but figure out for yourself why you exist. And boy, we are getting woo-woo crap fuzzy here right now. But Mark Twain never said this, but he gets attributed this. The 2 most important days in any person's life is number 1, the day you were born, and number 2, the day you figure out why. Why are you here? And so the best way to do that would be to spend an hour with yourself under a tree or at your favorite coffee shop and answer this question: If a miracle happened and my life looked exactly like I wanted it to be in every aspect, what would it look like? Take a paragraph or 2 or 3 at most and write down what your miracle looks like. And maybe when, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, what does it look like for you to have the life you want? How much? And there's 3 aspects to that: time, money, and energy. Those are the 3 resources in life that I'm aware of. There might be 4, but nobody's ever been able to give me a 4th. So anybody hearing this, send me a 4th. Time, money, energy, which is your health and your relationships and your ability to respond to the world around you. Those 3 are the resources we want. How much time, how much money, and how much energy do I want at my miracle? And why? Too often, most of the time, 90+% of the time, we are chasing time, money, or energy as the goal. I want a healthy life, or I want a lot of money, or I want a lot of time. Well, why? Yeah, I don't know why. Good question. And then we wonder why we never get those things because we don't know really why we want them. We just know we should have them. Well, what if you knew what your life looked like? I have this kind of house. I have this kind of relationship. I have these kinds of kids. I have this kind of time. I have this kind of contribution to the world around me. This is what my life looks like. Okay, that's your why. Now back into how much time, money, and energy will that why cost me? and it'll be different for everybody. If you want to solve poverty, then your amount of money is going to be a lot bigger than I want to put my kids through college and be a great dad. So figure out why, and then figure out how much time, money, and energy you want individually, and then do that for your business. Then come together and each of you say, okay, why do we exist? It's not to build roofs. That isn't it. It is not to build roofs. And if it is, it's not an empowering vision. It's something much bigger than that. What are you doing? What is the result? Here's the question you should ask. What is the result that our customers will experience? And do not say it's a roof that doesn't leak. Nobody wants a roof. Nobody wants a roof. They want comfort. They want convenience. They want
Lack of worry. Yeah.
Worry-free living. There's all kinds of things that you provide that are much bigger than a roof. So find out what you want individually. And if you don't have energy for that right now, at least come together and say, why do we exist? What result do when we put that plaque on in the lobby of our building, and it answers the question, what result does our client want? We want them to look at that and say, yeah, that's exactly what I'm looking for. I don't want a roof. And nobody wants a vacuum cleaner. They want clean floors. Nobody wants a drill. They want a hole. It's the same kind of thing. So figure out why you exist, and then figure out how to make that a part of your everyday commitment and how it actually works out in your life around you. And again, there's some very practical ways to do that.
Yeah.
So this stuff doesn't sit on your shelf.
I love that, Chuck.
This.
Thank you very much, man. It reminds me of when I was a carpenter before. That's what I was before this. Scott and I often joke about the fact that he was a band teacher. I was a carpenter. We're starting to work with a guy named Randy, who's a roofer right now. He's the only one that actually has a degree in finance. But, but I remember growing up, my dad was always in the garage doing woodworking. That wasn't his career, but he loved doing it. And I learned all of the curse words that I ever learned from hearing him in the garage, working on this woodworking. But I remember seeing the tools that he had, especially he had one called the Shopsmith. If anybody remembers this.
Oh yeah, I still have one.
Oh yeah.
More of it.
It's all the tools in one. It's a lathe. It's a drill press. It's everything. It's table saw. It's fantastic. But I remember seeing these tools and going, you know what? I want that someday. So I remember when I got married, I told my wife, I want to get these tools. I want to build up this tool shop. And so I did. I started getting these tools, and I had a recurring waking nightmare that I'd open my garage and one of my neighbors would come over, see all my tools hanging on the walls and say, "Oh, cool. What are you building?" And I would say, nothing. I just collected tools, I guess, and I'm not doing anything with it. I had no why to it besides the fact that I just wanted it. And we often use that same analogy with our clients. They're collecting all these financial products and these accounts, and we ask them, well, why? What's the point? And they go, well, I don't know what I'm building with it. I'm just collecting this stuff. And it reminded me of what you said. We have this company, we have these employees, we have this work that we're doing, but why? What are you collecting this stuff for? Yeah, I love that. I love that idea.
Yeah, you've got all these tools. What are you building?
Exactly. And again, for our listeners, why it seems like such a big, fuzzy, vague, woo-woo question. And I'll say again, it's the most important, least asked question in business. Why? Why are you in business? Why are you buying a Shopsmith? Why are you starting a new department? Why are you starting a new location? Why did you hire this person? It is absolutely the most important, least asked question in business, because number one, it can be hard to answer. Number two, we can be afraid of the answer. What if we actually get the answer of why we're in business and we don't like it? Let's just ignore that.
Yeah. That's a good point, man. It's a good point.
So Ken and I have actually, we've been working on this, and it's been an interesting process, and it's been kind of an ongoing process. I mean, we came up with a set of values at one point, and then we found at one point that and Ken and my whys are a little bit different, but luckily they interconnect enough that we can have we were able to come up with the values that that match both of our whys. And so our values are faith, moxie, collaboration, and integrity. So
either, Scott, what word does that spell?
I was just going to say, we got to come up with a word that works for those.
Like myth. How about
Ficum,
that? Ficum.
Siphum. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But this is, it's interesting to note that, you know what, my big why, at least personally, has changed over time. You know, it's not necessarily going to stay the same all the time. And of course we're not talking about a goal. This is your purpose, not your goal that you're shooting for. And so, but just the process of going through the process of figuring out, you know, why I'm here on this planet Earth, you know, why God put me here has been really valuable. And I think it is. And because as business owners, our business is a big part of who we are, and it should be a reflection of who we are, you know? And so yeah, it's a little woo woo. But it's a really powerful conversation to have with yourself, to have with your spouse or your significant other. You know, and it really changed the way that Ken and I approach our business.
Yeah. And the way that it's not woo-woo, it can be woo-woo if it's just that. Then it becomes like I call them your shelf help books that you put on your shelf to help your shelf look good.
Yeah.
my shelf is getting a lot of help with all my shelf help books. It looks great. And this can be that. It's like, okay, we defined our principles. Now let's stick it on the shelf or put it in our annual report. And it's no longer of any nice. So it is woo crap. Where it becomes much more than that is you ask yourself the second question. The first question is why. The second one is how does that apply to our regular everyday business? So one person got fired within 6 weeks of us coming up with these because that's how it applied was she only could keep 4 out of 5 for years. We didn't even ask. There wasn't a probationary. It was just for years. She had never kept the fifth value, but we'd never written them down so it wasn't obvious until we wrote them down. It's like, holy cow, she can't live in community. She is a freaking Lone Ranger. And we've been dancing around that for years. Let's put her in a company where she'll do better with a bunch of Lone Rangers. And she ended up better off, and so did we. So, you know, it has to apply to your everyday life. It has to, I'll give you one example how a roofer could do these things that we do. We have a weekly meeting, and you can do this with your production meeting. If you have a stand-up that's 20 minutes long on Monday mornings or every day, you could do this and ask the question, okay, somebody share our 3 values or our 4 values. And by the way, your spells MIFs. Our values create myths for other people. Like they don't get it. They don't have to. What's our 4 values, our 5 values? And somebody says, abundance, community, clarity, connection, and trust. And then the second question is, okay, who amongst us, any one of you, share one example in the next 15 or 20 seconds of how you saw any one of those values lived out since we met last time. Yep. Every single meeting has to start with, here's what our values are. Because when you beat the drum gently and relentlessly, people get what's important. And all of a sudden you hear conversations at the water cooler about your values and how the way that this job is being run may not be up to our values, or, hey, we got to talk to so-and-so because they keep coming in late and that violates our community. So that's how this stuff, the only way it's going to be valuable is if you bring it up on a regular daily basis. Never let it get to your
So I was just thinking about this. I wonder if you got this from working with Chuck, Scott, but
I did.
We do we do this every Monday. We'll have a values minute where somebody, you know, uses one of our values and talks about something that happened. We need to be better about this though. And we did this just recently, just yesterday. One of our employees embodied a value. They did something really well. We got a call from a client saying, "Oh, they did such a good job at this." And so we sent it out to the team saying, this employee did a really good job embodying this value by doing this thing. Well done. And you know, that's
kudos.
Kudos. We need to be better about doing that, but I think that's a great way to keep it top of mind.
And to your point, in the study for all of my books I've written, I've gotten 4 that are published, a couple more that haven't, but I found that the number one reason, there's 7 reasons why someone will leave your company. And everybody, if you ask them, they're going to say money is the number one reason they would leave. It's actually number 7. If you have the other 6 taken care of, they'll actually stay at your company for less money than they would get somewhere else. The number one reason people leave companies, they don't get recognized for doing something right. Now, If
Interesting.
you've all heard this from somebody else, hey, the manager wants to see you. That's never a good thing.
That's not a good thing.
Never a good thing. What if our instantaneous response to that was, oh, I wonder what I did right that they're going to affirm me for? What if
Oh, yeah.
we focused our attention on catching people doing something right and responding to them on that? Number one reason people will stay is because they feel appreciated and affirmed.
Awesome.
And that's a great mindset shift for a manager or for an
Right?
employer of, I'm going to spend my energy trying to catch them doing something right. Now, how often do we do, I'm going to try to catch them doing something wrong. If we
Mhm.
just shift that, that's a powerful shift.
And if you think about what the psychobabble behind that, that's really powerful. We want people to stop doing bad things, and so we walk around trying to find bad things that they're doing, and we yell at them for it. Um, the number one way to ensure that you will become an alcoholic is to focus on never becoming an alcoholic. Number one.
True. True.
And so if you keep me focused on the things I'm bad at, I'm going to do more of it. That's what the psychology says. What if we focused on things people were doing right and we celebrated that company wide? And I begin to see that people are getting celebrated for something that I don't do very well. I will improve at it. That's how I'm going to improve, is either by you telling me the things I'm good at or the things that other people are good at. And both of those will help me get better at the things I'm bad. Not that we can't speak to things here and there, we should, but it's like a 1 out of 6, 1 out of 8 ratio. And right now it's 9 bad things. And then we might say 1 good thing. So if we want to actually get people to change, spend more energy on what they're doing right.
That really reminds me, if we're going to catch people doing things right, we need to be more engaged. We need to be out there amongst them. We need to be seeing what they're doing. It
Yeah.
starts to remind me of something I think you've talked about, being and correct me, I'm going to get this wrong, but isn't it like a champion of the values or a
Yes.
defender of the values,
Yeah,
right?
champion.
Champion of the values. And you can't do that unless you're out there amongst them and really championing those values day to day.
No, the worst kind of affirmation is for a manager to walk through a bullpen of 7 people and say, Fred, you're doing a great job. Sally, wonderful. I love that. I'm glad you showed up today. And they have no idea. Well, meanwhile, everybody in the whole bullpen is pissed as hell at Fred because Fred's been sloughing off for the last 2 weeks. And the manager's coming through and doing these horrible, uninformed affirmations. That's Gilbert cartoon stuff. Don't do it. You got to actually recognize people for real things that they've done instead of for being a nice person.
Yeah. That's great stuff. I've been taking a lot of notes here. We got a lot of stuff to work on, Scott.
Yeah, we do. Well, we always do. We know that.
We always do. I love that. Well, great. Anything else you'd like us to know about the values and principles, this whole idea?
Yeah, no, I think that's it. And I will say that, yes, I guess I do have one more thing. There are 2 kinds of things that show up every day as soon as we open our eyes. 2 driving forces: the tyranny of the urgent and the priority of the important. And most of business, 98% of business, is us being reactive hostages to the tyranny of the urgent. All this crap that comes at us every day, including, I got a new proposal, yay, but now I have to respond. Everything is reactive. This stuff, the big why, this is the priority of the important. And here's the dangerous news. The important things will never come find us. We have to chase them. You will never have something show up in your office today saying, all right, by 4:00 this afternoon, you have to have your values figured out. Nothing will ever show up doing that. You have to set that time aside proactively, free yourself from the tyranny of the urgent to go do this stuff. So set aside some time, aside an hour or 2 hours or 4 hours as a leadership team and get this stuff done, because it's not going to happen unless you kick the tyranny of the urgent out. And I would suggest the best way to do this is to not even show up where you do the tyrannical, urgent, everyday tactical stuff. Do this somewhere else, or you'll get overwhelmed by emails, phone calls, and people walking through your office.
Yeah, that's very true. I know that. Experienced that a lot of times.
Need to be a lot more intentional about this stuff.
Yeah, this is the intentional side. You have to be intentional about the tyranny of the urgent. Once you get the priority of the important, once you get your business going, the flywheel effect will bring the tyranny of the urgent to you every day. And you'll feel very satisfied because 18 things came at you on Monday and you knocked 17 of them right out. Your business is no different. You wonder why January 1st is Groundhog Year again, because nothing has really changed because you haven't done the important work. And the important stuff will solve the urgent stuff over time. That's the big benefit. That's the carrot. Get to your values, vision, and mission figured out, and your product, process, promotion, and price will be much better off as a result over the long haul.
Man,
Love it. Chuck, this is great, man. And yeah, we're excited to have had you. I do want to real quick just give a plug for Chuck also has a fantastic podcast called Get Off the Treadmill. Definitely recommend looking that up. It's an excellent one for just really practical, effective business, business principles on how to build your business in a way that it's sustainable and that it is, it's a mature business that, if you choose to sell it at some point, it looks a lot better to people who might want to buy it. So Chuck, this has been fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah. I appreciate you guys. Appreciate your heart for business owners, and just keep going.
yeah. Been amazing. Got a lot of notes. Thanks, man.
Oh, yeah.
And thanks to our listeners for joining us today. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and remember, build it to use it. Until next time.
Thanks, guys.
The information provided here is for general informational purposes only and should not be considered an individualized recommendation or personalized investment advice. The investment strategies mentioned here may not be suitable for everyone. Each investor needs to review an investment strategy for his or her own particular situation before making any investment decisions. Investment advisory represented above and investment advisory services through Portside Wealth Group LLC and SEC Registered Investment Advisor. Portside Wealth Group LLC and their representatives do not provide tax or legal advice. Each firm only transacts business in states where it is properly registered or excluded or exempted from registration requirements. SEC registration does not constitute an endorsement of the firm by the Commission, nor does it indicate that the advisor referenced in this disclosure has obtained a particular level of skill or ability.